And in this section, we are talking about forecasting. So we have understood that we have some variances in our project. We looked at our project report. Now, what to do with them? What forecast can we make on the basis of the data which we have received out of SPI, CPI, variances, etc., etc. So there are four things or four type of measurement tools, or you can say calculations, are discussed in EVM. First one is estimate to complete. So you are standing here, you are at the end of third month. What do you think? How much money will you need in order to finish the 100 unit work which you have planned initially? Your initial plan was 6 months and your initial cost was 1,000. Now, what more you need after spending $500? It is about estimate to complete. So what is needed to finish the remaining work? Estimate at completion. What would be the final estimated budget of this project? So at this point of time, what do you think in total, how much money we are going to spend for this project? So you can just think of it is a sum total of what I have already spent and what I think it will take more. So you are right. EAC is a sum total of actual cost and estimate to complete. Simple. Variance at completion. In a previous section, we were talking about individual variances. At the end of month 3, I was looking at variances. Variance at completion, looking at the current trend, at what variance I am thinking of finishing this project. How much over or under budget this project will be at the end. That is variance at completion. To complete performance index is an index which talks about if in order to achieve a desired performance, in order to finish the project in a desired budget, what kind of cost performance I should achieve in the remaining duration. So that's a to complete performance index. So again, just checking our own project. So we had a planned value of 400, which at the end of third month, our actual cost is 500. Our earned value is 300. And at this point of time, schedule performance index is EV divided by PV, which is 300 divided by 400 is 0.75. Our cost performance index is 300 EV divided by AC, which is 0.6. So this is the current state. Now let's look how do we forecast future on the basis of this data. So first, let's look at two things, ETC and EAC, estimate to completion and estimate at completion. We are at the end of third month. We have already spent $500. How much money I think it will take more before I finish this project? The estimation of that is estimate to complete. And the sum total of actual cost and estimate to complete is estimate at completion. Simple. Now, it looks simple, but the most difficult thing is how do I know how much more money this project will take? Because I know there are some variances, but on what basis I can project or I can calculate the future money outflow or the future budget for the remaining duration? So there could be three scenarios which are discussed in PMBOK as well. First scenario is called atypical scenario. It means whatever variances you have observed in current till the end of third month, they were a specific case. They are not going to repeat again and again. So just absorb them. Just absorb them. Just think of that if you have spent $200 extra, say that I will need in my project $200 more because this is something I have already overspent and I don't think that I can recover them. I don't think I can save money in a remaining duration. But I do think that in a remaining duration, I will work as I have planned. I will be spending $10 per unit. So for the remaining work, I will work as per the initial plan. There's the one scenario, atypical case. Mathematics will give the answer in this particular case. Second scenario is a typical one. In a typical one, we take the trend. We as a project management team, we say that, okay, this trend is going to be continued. Initially, whatever we have planned, we think we should factor in the current variances. The cost variances is going to be same in the remaining period of the project. In that case, we take the current cost performance index in account and increase or decrease the complete budget of the project or the remaining budget of the project according to our cost performance index. The third one, erroneous. It talks about that there is no mathematical solution for it. Whatever estimation we have done, there was some serious mistakes in it. So let's estimate again. Forget about what we have estimated before. For the remaining months, I want to do the re-estimation. So in case of a re-estimation, there is no mathematics. There is no formula. You may do bottom-up estimate. You may multiply some parameters and you find the best suitable estimate for the remaining duration. So estimate to complete for erroneous is get calculated by the project team. And when you sum it with the actual cost, you get estimate at completion. But in case of atypical and typical, you do have a formula. Let's look at a typical case. Now, typical case is any EAC is equal to actual cost plus estimate to complete. Estimate to complete, since the case is atypical, we are talking about for the remaining work, I just need budgeted cost. So budgeted cost of a remaining work would be my estimate to complete. So what is the remaining work? In case of money, in our project, we had budget at completion equals to 1,000. So at the end of the project, we were thinking of earning 1,000. Now what we have earned till this point in time, out of 100 units, I am done with 30 units. So I have earned 300. So what is remaining? It is 1000 minus 300. 700 work is still remaining. So what is my estimate at completion? The total money which I have spent $500 and my remaining work is $700. So my estimate at completion is going to be $1,200. Now you may see interesting thing is here is it is just absorbing the current variance. We had a current variance of minus 200. If I just add that variance to my previous budget, I get estimate at completion. Because I am only talking about, please let me absorb the current variance, give me extra money for my current variance, and I will do the remaining work as per the plan. So if you follow this case, in this particular project example, our project is expected to take $1,200 US. So in an exam, when you find a message clue which talks about that whatever variances has occurred, they were atypical or they were specific case, project team feels going forward, they will work as per the project. Apply this rule, apply this formula. The second case, a typical case. In case of typical, you are accepting the reality that whatever cost performance we are observing, we are going to continue with that. So it is like for the remaining work, I need to factor them, I need to divide them by cost performance index. So remaining, I will ask for more money as per the cost performance index. So estimate at completion becomes actual cost plus remaining work. In an atypical case, I was just taking remaining work without multiplying it with an cost performance index. But in case of a typical variance, I am multiplying the remaining work with the cost performance index. This particular formula, EAC equals to AC plus remaining work divided by CPI, can also be simplified by BAC divided by CPI. So if you just expand it, it will get converted into budget at completion divided by cost performance index. And it also makes a logical sense. So whatever cost performance you are observing, if you think that that is the right trend, if I factor that into a complete project, I get the new revised estimate. So in our case, since we had 0.6 as our cost performance index, if we divide our 1000 budget with 0.6, we get 1666 as a revised EAC. You can also link it with the cost variance in a percentile term. We were talking about that we are 66.6% over budget. So if you think of that, this is also something giving you a clue that estimated completion is going to be 1666. If you get a question and you get a clue where the exam is indicating that whatever variances you have observed are going to be continued, you need to pick this option. Now there is one more variant of this which I am not discussing in this particular webinar. In some cases, we also factor in the schedule performance index. So for the remaining work, we just don't divide the remaining work with a cost performance index, but we also divide it with a schedule performance index. In PMP exam, we have not seen questions where the schedule performance index should be factored in. But in case if you are the question specifically talks about it, that in order to calculate the remaining performance, we also need to take a schedule in account or a schedule performance in account. In that particular case, you can divide the remaining work with SPI as well. The third indicator for forecasting is variance at completion. It's a very simple. It is just a difference between the previous baseline budget and the new estimate at completion. Similarly, the negative variance is bad things, means we are thinking of more money. We are asking for more money than initially estimated. The positive variances are good things. We can also look at variance at completion in a percentile term where we divide the VAC with budget at completion. Sometimes I find test taker getting confused between rebaselining and estimate at completion. If your question talks about that there were some issues, management has looked into it and they have rebaselined the project, it means that you have a new budget at completion. It does not mean that you have an EAC, it means that you have a new BAC. When the calculation, the question talks about that you estimate that it is going to take 100 more, 200 more, 300 more, it is estimate at completion. Now, why these two different things? Rebaselining means that your future performance is going to be monitored against new BAC. EAC means that you are estimating that you will take more money, but ultimately your variances are always calculated against BAC. Even if you have a revised EAC, but if it is showing a negative variance at completion, your project remains negative. Your project performance remains negative. So EAC is more about forecasting and sharing information. It does not mean that project manager is doing good if he is achieving EAC, but if you have a revised BAC, it means that we understand the situation. Management has approved that this project can be rebaselined. It is not going as expected, and project management team has less to do with the cost variances. It is basically influenced by the external environment. So this is another trap which you might see in your questions. The final one, and yeah, we were talking about it's a 2-hour long marathon, so it's about to complete. The final one is to complete performance index. So it's an index which talks about what is work remaining divided by fund remaining. So it's it gives an indicator that what cost performance we should achieve in a remaining project duration. Sometimes it also helps us in projecting. If you are making aggressive target to a management, for example, you have already spent $500 and you have only finished 30% of your work in this particular project, and management thinks that in the remaining $500 you will finish the remaining work, then if you calculate 2 complete performance index, it will show that management is expecting you to use $1 very efficiently. They may be expecting that every $1 spent, you are expected to earn, say, $1.60. So does it make realistic sense? If it makes, then only go with this plan, or think about revising your estimate at completion. In a mathematical term, first we should think about work remaining divided by fund remaining. Now EAC, the work remaining is simply a BAC minus EV, but if you keep looking at BAC minus EV as a work remaining, it will help you to visualize many questions, many situations in your real exam. So work remaining is simple. It is always budgeted cost of the total work and budgeted cost of the completed work. So earned value is always showing me the budgeted cost of the completed work. BAC is showing the total budget, so work remaining is equal to BAC minus EV. Now fund remaining is bit situation based, and sometimes it confuses the test taker. The first situation is your current budget is still relevant. You believe you can achieve the BAC. Now when you talk about you believe, it does not mean that management is not going to approve more budget. It means that as per your project calculation, you believe that work can be finished in a budget. So in that case, the fund remaining is initial budget and amount of money you have already spent. So in our case, if you focus on that we have already spent, it talks about 1000 minus 500. So fund remaining is 500 and work remaining is $700 US. So if I calculate that 2 complete performance index, it is 700 by 500. So I am expected to achieve this 1.4 like $1.40 out of each dollar I'm going to spend in a remaining duration when I'm working on $700 work. If I have a revised estimate, if I think that I can't finish it in $500, then I need to use fund remaining as EAC minus actual cost, the money which I have already spent. Now in an exam, if you see in a question that estimate at completion information is given, you should pick that. In order to calculate fund remaining, you should always give a preference to EAC if that information is available in your question, because having EAC in the question itself represents that you do have a revised plan in place. It's not necessarily a revised baseline plan, it's a revised plan in place. So before I get in detail, so this is a summarized, this summarizes the complete presentation. It talks about that various indicators and their, project management questions which they are answering. So schedule variance answers that are we ahead or behind our completed work. Schedule performance index is showing that how fast we are doing the work as per the initial plan or how slow we are doing as per the initial plan. We are not talking about money when we talk about schedule performance index. The cost performance index talks about are we under or over budget. How cost performance index talks about how efficiently we are using our resources. Cost variances talks about that are we under or over budget. To complete performance index talks about that how efficiently must we use our remaining resources. Future. Asking run rate, in future what efficiency we should exhibit. Estimated completion, what is the project likely cost? At what cost we think this complete project will finish? Estimated completion. At the end, will it be under or over budget? Variance at completion. And what will be the remaining work cost? So estimate to complete talks about we are here, how much money do we need in order to finish the work. So just looking at these languages and relating the various indexes to these project management questions may help you to navigate various EVM questions which you see in your final exam. Let me put the polls and then I will look at some of the questions. So what is BAC? How do we calculate it? budget at completion is not a calculated one. As we spoke in a segment 1, it is just a total sum of your budget. So you have a process called determine budget. Determine budget gives you a BAC. Okay, now there is still confusion between atypical and typical situations. So I got one question where the confusion was there. So I am just closing the poll and sharing it. So by the time I answer the second question, you get the second question. Okay, let me just put the final poll, and by that time I will answer some of the queries. So typical and atypical. So there is a question that talking about that the attendee is still confused about typical and atypical scenario. So just think like, if you believe as a project manager that whatever you have observed in this till this duration is a one-off case. It's not going to be repeated in upcoming duration. It's an atypical scenario. It's a one-time scenario. It's a specific scenario. Once that's an atypical case. Typical case is something which you feel that it is something which is going to be continued. Like you find out that you have thought of the labor rate is expected to be a $10 per unit, but at the end you negotiated the contract with a vendor where the labor rate became say $12 per unit rather than $10 per unit. So you expect that this is going to be continued. So it's a typical scenario. Whatever money, extra money or a less money you have spent in your previous duration, you are going to be doing the same trend. You are going to repeat the same trend. So it's a typical scenario. That's it. So that will help you to answer these questions. And look at logically. Say the estimated completion is always a sum total of actual cost and estimate to complete. Estimate to complete is all about you can get, if you think that variance was one-off, you are not going to increase budget for the remaining work. So you are just taking remaining work budget as per the original plan. If you think that variance are going to be continued, you need to factor in that variance into your future work or a remaining work. So just a final follow-up question on this. So if the question comes is that trend is going to be followed, usually it means that the current variances are going to be followed. And when we say that the work has to be completed in a budgeted rate, it means so the another question is why budgeted rate it is considered to be atypical. What does it mean? It means that remaining work will be done as per the budgeted rate. So that's why it becomes an atypical scenario, that for the remaining thing you don't have to increase or decrease the budget. When you get a trend has to be followed, the current cost variances trend has to be followed. It means your budgeted rate is no more relevant. Your new trend of your cost has to be followed. In that case, you have a typical variance. So if you have a specific question that why this particular question is taking typical or atypical, please post it in our forum. We will discuss them. And Arpit, I think we had 2-3 questions which I have detailed them out. And I have also added one more video where I am only discussing about these three ways of calculating estimate at completion or estimate to complete. So you can just look at our video YouTube channel. So whenever I talk about video, it means youtube.com/Eisenbridge. So you will find these two videos. If anything still confuses you, you are welcome to post in a forum. So this particular question is done. I am sharing the result. I know people are tired, so not many have attempted it, but the majority is right. Majority is right. So it is 67%, and 65% people are voting to 1, and this is the right answer. So we can discuss these questions in our forum. I will post the question as well as the solution in next 12 hours, and we can have a conversation regarding it. So this was all I have planned for this particular session. I'm Saket, and we do have some social channels where you can link yourself. Join our forum, forum.eisenbridge.com, and you can also follow our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/eisenbridge. We are like into project management training. Usually people who are very near to their certification exam or a PMP exam joins us. We provide PMP certification as well as PMI ACP certification training, and very soon we are starting up with professional business analyst certification program also. That will also become online, expected to be by November. And we are doing many things in Agile. So we are Scrum Alliance, REP, and we do certified Scrum developers and many Agile programs. I also help people to become certified Scrum professional, CSP. So CSP facilitation is becoming another type of service of ours. So the best way to remain connected is join the forum and remain active there. Thank you, and thanks for joining this particular session. It was relatively a long session, so I appreciate you spending time and learning about EVM on a weekend.